Thank you. So Hydrostor. Hydrostor is an advanced compressed air energy storage technology and company. What we've done is we've taken traditional compressed air energy storage and we've enhanced it in two fundamental ways. Number one, we've made it emissions-free, which is critical in today's day and age. And secondly, we've made it so that it is flexibly sited. We're basically pumped hydro, but we're more modular, and we can also flexibly site our energy. We've been around for about a decade. I'd say we spent about 7 or so years focusing on the technology. With the arrival of myself as well as others at the organization, we've really morphed into a developer where we've been building out the technology with respect to our project pursuits. Our head office is here in Toronto. We have a second office in Australia. We have about 35 people that are employed at the organization today. We have 3 projects that are either operational or under construction, one in downtown Toronto on the island, second in Goderich, Ontario, just west of Toronto, and we have a third project that we are constructing in Australia. We also have a pipeline of scalable projects that I define as 100 megawatts plus in capacity. We've probably bid about 400 megawatts or so into commercial processes in different markets. We're very active in Canada, the US, Australia, and Chile. Wanted to provide a little bit more information on the traditional compressed air energy storage technology for those of you that aren't familiar with it. Traditional compressed air has been operational for about 40 years in aggregate. There's 2 plants that are in existence at scale, one in Alabama, second in Germany. We're talking about 400 megawatts or so of capacity. These plants have performed as expected over the 40 years of their operations, which is performing very nicely. In terms of our technology, there's basically 2 components. There's the top side, which literally just uses off-the-shelf compressors, expanders, heat exchangers that we're leveraging from tier 1 manufacturers such as Baker Hughes, who is also an investor in our organization pursuant to the financing that we just consummated. And then there's the subsurface component, which is really just using the same techniques that are leveraged in the hydrocarbon storage space. So whereas in the hydrocarbon storage space, they're building out these caverns, which are analogous to what we're doing from the perspective of storing butane, propane, other hydrocarbons. We're literally just building these out from the perspective of storing and cycling air and water. So it's a very simple process. We're taking a proven technology, we're enhancing it in 2 fundamental ways, and we're just incorporating proven equipment and proven processes and just repackaging it in a little bit of a different way. In terms of how it works, it's a 4-stage process. The first stage would be taking off-peak electricity or renewables more likely today. You'd run it through a compressor. You'd store the heat from that process in topside tanks. You take the air from that process, you'd store it in a purpose-built cavern that we would construct or leverage from the mining community. That would replace water that was previously in the cavern. You're sort of now in a state of charge. And then on demand, we could flow the water back into the cavern, pushes the air to the surface, recombines with the heat, and it's used to run a turbo expander. We're a proven technology, a bankable solution that can be deployed today. Again, we're leveraging the traditional compressed air energy storage technology. We're using the same techniques that are used in the hydrocarbon storage space, building out the exact same caverns for our purpose. We're using off-the-shelf equipment for manufacturers like Baker Hughes that make the compressor and the expander. We have 3 plants, again, that are operational or under construction today. We've conducted numerous engineering studies with respect to our larger scale facilities. We're working with proven supply chain partners, whether it's AECOM, SNC, WSP, Geostock Entrepose. These are groups that we work with to develop and construct our facilities. We've also spent a lot of time over the last 2 years, in particular, putting the bonding products as well as the performance guarantees that are ultimately required to get the end customer comfortable with our solution. In terms of the application, it's basically fourfold. Again, we're a long duration technology, unlike a battery that's quicker response, shorter duration. We are real capacity that can be provided to an operations or to a grid. So we can replace a coal plant or a gas plant credibly that requires longer duration. We can make use of the infrastructure that exists at those facilities. We can defer transmission. As you can imagine, it's really expensive to upgrade a line. You could, store energy through our technology closer to load to negate the need to upgrade a massive transmission line. Or we can incorporate large sums of renewable energy. If you think of a market like California that's quickly gravitating to a carbon-free environment, you need longer duration to do that. As you move from 10, 20, 30% renewables, a 4-hour resource like a standard battery is not going to cut it. And then there's brownfield sites that we can leverage, working closely with the mining community or industrials to provide a solution behind the meter. In terms of mining applications specifically, which is probably most relevant to this crowd in particular, there's basically 4 benefits of our technology, at least from my point of view. Number 1, we can generate incremental revenue for your businesses, whether it's in the form of arbitrage or capacity or ancillary revenue streams that can be generated from these assets. There's also the ability to defer significant rehabilitation liabilities. What you're getting with our asset is a 50-year facility, so you have the ability to push back that liability quite considerably. In an off-grid situation where you're currently powering on diesel or other forms of generation, which could be expensive and volatile, as you guys probably appreciate, you could pair our long-duration storage resource with a solar facility to deliver something that's a little bit more base-loaded. Again, with a 4-hour battery, maybe you get to 40, 45% renewable. You can probably get closer to 80, 85, 90% renewable with our longer duration technology on a very competitive basis. And then even if you are connected to the grid, we have the ability to shave peaks and reduce considerable demand charge. I know there's often situations where a plant's at capacity and you need to expand a transmission line to a node that may be located pretty far away from other load. In those situations, by installing a long-duration storage resource, you can negate the need to upgrade a sizable line in that type of situation. Here's just a typical example that I pulled together from one specific assignment that we were working on. Here, we basically had a 20-megawatt CAES facility. We paired it with, call it 100 megawatts of solar, and ultimately what you get is a resource that's basically base-loaded. If you look at the area under the blue line, in particular the yellow area, during the daylight hours, the solar could be used to power the mine directly, but part of that incremental energy would also go to the compressor to produce the air that would be stored, and then ultimately when the sun is no longer shining, you can use that air to produce energy, and that you can see is the white area below the dotted blue line there. Here's our facility in Australia that we're currently constructing. It's located in South Australia, about 50 kilometers southeast of Adelaide. It was located at the Angas zinc mine that was under care and maintenance. This is a 5-megawatt facility, 10 megawatt hours, so about 2 hours in duration. We can expand it quite easily if that's something that's supported by the business case. This will be constructed and operational by tail end of 2020. We're already under construction. It's going to provide critical services to the grid like synchronous inertia and other ancillary services, as well as real capacity that is required. The Australian market's really excited about our technology. They view us as sort of the flexibly sited, more modular form of pumped hydro, which is also really taken off in certain pockets within Australia. We were given almost $10 million from the Australian government from a federal and state perspective to build out this project. Wanted to provide a little bit more incremental color on what we're doing sort of around the globe. We're really focused on 4 markets: Canada, the US, Australia, and Chile. I'd say in terms of the next 3 projects that we're looking at that are a little bit more advanced, we have one project in Kern County, just outside of the LA basin. They're looking to retire significant gas-fired generation. They look at us as a long duration, a replacement of that capacity. So that's one opportunity we're really excited about. Northern Chile is another market that we're also very interested in. We have a project in northern Chile to integrate significant sums of solar. It's a very robust market from a solar point of view. They're also struggling a little bit from a grid perspective. By building out our storage resource, we'll really solve some of the transmission issues that they're dealing with. And then the last one that I wanted to touch on briefly, we have a project in New South Wales where we're basically working to integrate significant sums of renewables, and we're also helping to repair the grid in that certain pocket where we're developing this project in the Broken Hill area. We were just granted $1 million of development capital to support the development of that specific project. So in a nutshell, that's Hydrostor, and thank you very much for your time.